Please have a seat over here. And so today we're doing things a little bit differently. We're launching Pride Month. We're very excited. And so what we wanted to do today was have a panel discussion to talk about love and being authentic and standing in our own audacious, beautiful self and being seen by the world as who we really are, not who the world would like us to become. So today we're going to have that conversation. So I'm really excited to have Fleur Fantasie with us. Beautiful performance. Thank you so much. And what a great song for today, I believe, right? That's gorgeous. We also have Samuel Lopez. Samuel, please come join. And we also will be including Geneviève Trudel. And Geneviève, please come and join our panel also. So we're going to need this microphone, which we will require that you pass it between you. Oh, good. We have two mics. Excellent. So what we want to talk about today is what it takes to really live in a bold, powerful, positive way, just the way we were created. See, we were each created in the image and likeness of the Creator. Whether you call that God or Spirit, Allah, First Cause, Universe, the name is irrelevant because we as human beings cannot see beyond our finite perspective of things. So imagining the infinite is a bit of a task. But what I do know is that energy is love, it's positive, it's productive, and it is fully present here. And I am proud to be part of this incredible universe and all that it brings. And so today I'm really excited to have our panelists here to talk about love, to talk about the joy of being authentically, unapologetically the way God created us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Geneviève, would you like to share a little bit about who you are and why I would include you in a Pride celebration?
Okay, I do have sound. Well, you include me in every service, no matter if it's Pride or not, so...
Well, there is that.
That's the main reason. No, well, as you mentioned before, we will be doing a joined, I guess, or I guess we'll be joining MCC, Metropolitan Community Church, at Church on Dundas. I sing at MCC. I've been singing with them for over a year now. So I am a bisexual woman, young woman. I go by she, her, they, them pronouns. And so singing in a space like MCC has been really, really fulfilling for me, because not only do I get to see a really huge LGBT community. I mean, that's the whole point of that church. But as well at church, that's kind of, that representation isn't always there. And so being able to sing somewhere like that where I know everybody in that building is loved no matter what is incredible. And I think we have also carried that sentiment over here, obviously. I mean, hello. Yeah, I don't know. I love performing, and I don't.
And you don't apologize for being considering yourself queer. It's all good.
Who cares?
I'm me.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand why people care. I don't care about you, so mind your business.
Do you want to pass it to Samuel? Samuel, now, what are your pronouns?
Well,
there's lots, I know.
Yes, we're speaking English here, but my original language is Nahuatl, which is a language known in El Salvador, and I'm just learning my language. So for the third person of the singular, we only have one pronoun.
Yes.
So in other words, no pronoun. So you could call me he, she, they,
them.
I, you.
Just not late for dinner.
Okay, sure.
So tell me about your journey as a two-spirited Indigenous person. and you found your way to Canada from El Salvador. I was trying to remember where you were from. I don't know why it was, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, beyond that. I have a new puppy, so I've been sleeping much, so a little forgetful. So tell me a little bit about your journey, your path. You're a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, and you've had a remarkable journey. And you and I served together on the PWA board. So tell me a little bit about what brought you here and how it might be different from El Salvador.
You just said it all. Didn't leave me much to say. No, I left El Salvador in the 1980s.
Yeah.
During the Civil War that was sponsored by Ronald Reagan. And I also come from the line of my father's side is Nonualco. The Nonualco were persecuted in 1833. Then we speak Nahuatl, and the Nahuatl is speaking were persecuted in 1932, of which 30,000 were killed in 72 hours. And so now no one can stop me from speaking because whether it's legal or not, now I have a choice. I live here since the 1980s, and I am the son of an indigenous father, and he's also a Baptist minister. And so I grew up in the midst of not liking myself, not wanting to be around, and being taught that I had to change. So arriving to Montreal was a good change because from El Salvador we migrated to Mexico City, which wasn't much better, but I already had pubic hair. So I had to start thinking, what am I gonna do with this, right? And so when we moved to Montreal, I continue working in the church and doing, working with the children, working with the youth, and so on. But I didn't like myself.
You were still feeling a need to hide who you really were as a two-spirited
Basically, it's not that I didn't like myself. That's not the correct wording. I liked who I am. I was so happy with myself, but the rest of the world wasn't. And so my environment wasn't approving of my happiness. And so I would go to school, get on the bus and say, next time I see a guy, please take me, God. And I literally meant it. I was already a teenager, and I said, take me. I have no purpose for you here. So if I was made to your image and I'm not doing your work, then just take me.
That's an interesting thing, that somehow the church gave you the message that how you were created somehow was wrong, and yet you're created by God.
Yes, see, what happens is that I also come from, in El Salvador, Emmanuel Baptist Church is known for being different. And so different in the sense that they taught me to think. And they taught me to question society. We stood up against the Civil War, the human rights violations. And when I came to Canada, I questioned the church. And so I was in a safe space to do that. And so now I embrace being two spirits as it was taught to us from the beginning.
Awesome. Can you pass the mic over? Oh, you've got one, right.
Yes, I do.
So, Fleur Fantasy is your drag persona.
That is correct.
And your name is Jameson Edwards.
Yes.
And I'm so glad you're here. Your performance was fantastic. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a drag performer, especially with everything going on. I think Canada's a little better than the US, but we still have a lot of challenges here. How are you dealing with
Okay, so
life?
I'm initially from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And in the Caribbean, being queer is something that is almost frowned upon. I mean, I've had several experiences where I lost a job because of that. I was a school teacher, and some parents would say, I can't have this gay teacher teaching my child. And, it was just a plethora of different situations. And I migrated to Canada, and I started to feel a sense of belonging, feeling safe, and not having to worry about putting on a persona that was accepted by society.
Right.
Because I was very feminine character, but being that I'm from the islands, I kind of had to be almost macho. So that way, attention would not be drawn on me, because when attention is drawn on you, then it follows you and it carries you. And it can be something that is very mentally and emotionally draining.
Of course.
And for me, it's like I have to, at home, I'm myself. When I'm out in public most of the time, I have to be this other person. Then when I get back home, I have to change to be me. So that transition was very difficult on me, because I just wanted to just be Jameson, this person who was just flamboyant and just happy and just proud. And I never inflicted harm on anybody. And all I just wanted was for persons to just see that beyond my physical attributes, that I am a human being and I have a heart. I have
Yes.
love, I have compassion, I'm a friend, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. I think these qualities should be at the forefront most, and
Yes.
not what I decide to do with my life. So coming into this space in Canada, more specifically, I got the opportunity to hone on my skills and my craft. The birth of Fleur Fantasy. Hey.
I love Fleur Fantasy.
And being that the PWA was a safe haven for me, I was able to bring out Fleur, and you got to experience some of my
Yes.
performances.
I have.
And I'm here. And you mentioned that this entire conversation is going to be about love, and that's something that's very, very ticklish, primarily because when you're placed in a situation where you have to love others before you love you, and do what others say in order to please them, and deny yourself that right of that self-fulfilling love, that is something that I would not want anyone to go through.
I agree with you completely, because for me, the most important person that we have to love, first and foremost, ourself.
And that's come from within. It comes from within.
Yeah, because as you love you, there's an energy that goes out from you that draws more of that energy to you as well. And I find that people who really do love themselves are very kind and loving to others as a rule. Like, loving people don't go out and harm people. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. As you mentioned this, as a teenager, I always carried a mirror in my bag because I really love seeing myself.
Good.
And it was like, why do you carry a mirror? Why do you look at yourself so much? Why? You're a guy, you're not supposed to be having a mirror in your bag. I'm like, and I just want to see me because I feel good when I see me.
Yeah.
So something like that was being stripped away from me, and it was actually something that was very positive. So now I look in the mirror 24/7 and I'm proud of who I see. I'm like, I love you. You know that, right? You know that, right? So, these daily conversations for me are like self-affirming.
Yeah.
And I take pride and pleasure in ensuring that, these deep self-conversations are important, because it brings out the inner you and it brings out the inner love that is most important.
It brings out the authentic you, which is really what we want to see, is that beautiful human being that you are, that each one of us are. We want that to be what comes out. And what I love about pride is that we can sit in our own skin. And love for me means oneness. It isn't an affection. It isn't, a relationship. It is about this idea of oneness. And what we teach here is that there is a power in the universe. Some people call it God, some Allah, some universe, peace, love, spirit, whatever. And that there's only one. So if there's only one and it's energy, that means we're all a part of it. Right? We live, move, and have our being in it. So there is no separation. So when I think about the idea of our own self-love, I was taught that if I liked myself, I was being selfish. And that's simply not true. Because if you love you, what you're saying is, I was created in a way that is absolutely perfect, whole, and complete. And I accept me as me. And I don't need to put those masks on when I go out the door to fit in. So I was raised in a white family, a white city, a white environment,
It was very white, I gotta say, very, very white. And so for me, there's things that I do inadvertently because that's what I was raised with. But what I've learned, like when I was raised, I didn't know, well, in fact, the first time I heard of a homosexual male, I was like, really? Mind you, the first time I heard that my parents had sex to conceive me, I went, not a chance. They wouldn't do that because I was taught it was bad and wrong. And it's not. It's good. God created us. Yeah. The teenager in the crowd.
To make one joke, I'm like sitting here itching.
Itching to make a joke. But the energy of oneness is so important to the conversation because when we come to accept one another as we are, where we are, and not only accept, but celebrate. Celebrate who we are. Celebrate the life we've been given. Celebrate the fact that God, which is not a guy in the sky, by the way, God is the energy of life itself, that energy has created each and every one of us. Now, when I was little, I'm sure I was a lesbian. But that didn't exist, right? That didn't exist. So I was bad and wrong, right? It was shameful to even think that that's the way I could be created. That's bad and wrong. But I am queer. Now, I am in a heterosexual relationship. My husband is my glorious, beautiful partner in life, and definitely my wife. I've said that to him before. I know, he'll kill me when he listens to this. He's not here to, I know, it's funny. But, you know, it's because I work so much, and he's my helper, right? But had I been raised at a different time, if I'd been born when Geneviève was born, I probably would be married to a woman.
Oh, and then I wouldn't be born.
And, well, I don't know, you didn't come via sex anyway, so, you know.
It's true. It's true. My parents have never had sex. I know that for a fact. So. Anyways, while she laughs, well, yeah, that's actually also something that's interesting is I was thinking while you were talking about, like, I was raised, obviously, with all the ideals that she talks about every Sunday. And so, you know, I've heard that I love myself the way I am, that like, it was like a lullaby to me as a child, probably. But I still struggled. And it's interesting, and I think especially, like, being in high school, I remember being in elementary school, and when I was starting to kind of question, it seems that I was the only one that was queer
Isn't
in
that
my
funny how
friend
that
group.
seems, that I'm alone in this?
Well, I mean, as to date, those people are all still straight as far as I know, so I don't know. Anyways, but, you know, we were like 9, 10, and I'm telling my friends, well, I think I might like girls, and they're like, well, don't talk about it, you know?
Wow.
Well, it's not like, it's like, okay, well, like, let's talk about it quietly. Let's talk about it amongst us. Like, we wouldn't even, you know, and that was at 9 and 10, right? And I think luckily I was in a high school where inclusivity was a big thing. We had many LGBT teachers, but it doesn't stop. It's still there, you know. I like hearing like the F slur being dropped in the middle of a classroom at 10 o'clock on a Monday, and it's like, do you even know what that means?
This is a French school, by the way.
Oh yeah, but nobody really. We
Spoke
all speak
French.
English anyways, so. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that, like, I was raised with the ideals of. I knew that you probably say love more than any other word on the planet. It's tattooed on you twice. But I still struggled because that's kind of what it is, and the environment around us, and yeah. But luckily, I had throughout my teenage years, I ended up, you know, as we attract what we put out, and thus I attracted many gay friends. And thus.
Now, Samuel, your kind of alter ego is Samantha, and I love Samantha too. She's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about the developing of Samantha? how that came to be, or was she always a part of you? How do you speak about her?
Well, I speak about her when she fully developed. I don't talk about her how it started, but
Yeah.
it is because it's not full of love how things
Of
start,
course.
right? So it all starts by mockery, by acknowledging that I am different, that being feminine is awful, that you're such a sissy, and I'm trying to like tell my hand, stop moving that way, like believing what I'm being told by people of my own age.
Yeah.
So when I finally am in Toronto, which is like in uh, 1987, I finished high school at back then grade 13. École secondaire Etienne Brûlé.
Wow, that's our rival school.
That's where I went because it's the best.
No,
And
we
so
went to Etienne.
Etienne Brûlé?
We're Collège Français.
I am from the best, from Etienne Brûlé.
And now we have some rivalry happening here. The French schools.
And so after that, I studied at the Baptist Leadership Education Center in Whitby. That one you don't know. And it was very challenging because even among my classmates and instructors, my Christian thinking was already different. It wasn't as conservative as theirs. So I was a vegetarian, they didn't like it. I talked to God in Spanish, they didn't like it. Um, I was, the moments of praise, I did it with a lot of noise, and it wasn't their way. They were into the piano thing more than, all the noise that I was making. I had acknowledged my indigenous background back then. By then, I was in grade 11 when I finally, like, this is already in Toronto. I had already lived 3 years in Montreal, and I still didn't know that my grandmother had been persecuted in the 1930s and that she was indigenous. And part of it is because in El Salvador, we all look alike, but we don't acknowledge our indigenous background that easily. So
Right.
when I came here where we don't look alike, then I realized that during an assignment about the family tree. And so I, didn't know much, but I started learning about my history and the history of grandma and why she spoke differently, and we didn't. She became a Catholic. We didn't, but she did all of that.
Now, she became Catholic really to save her life.
And for you to have the opportunity to hear this story today,
Yeah.
because she moved from her community, removed her regalia, started speaking Spanish, and became Catholic, and moved to the city close to the sewage, where still she has left a house where she bought it in 1932. And the sewage is still there open. And I say it because that's my background. That's where I
Yep.
come from. That's the root of my connection.
But that speaks to your fierceness too, that she saw what was going on, what could have harmed her and created problems for the whole family. And
Yes.
you have that courage, that strength.
Yes, and
that
there's something that the other day I was thinking of, that every time we gave her a gift, she would say, "Don't bring me anything. Don't bring me anything." And I've been struggling, wondering what that was, because she used to say, "Don't bring me anything. Next time, people are gonna say I gave you this, and then they're gonna wanna take even my house." And finally, I realized that goes back to what happened to her in 1932.
Yeah.
Everything was taken away from her and
Wow.
became who she is. So Samantha is part of just acknowledging that part that you cannot take away from me.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So it lives with me.
Yeah, it's who you
Samantha
are.
is always on the surface when Sam is present, and when Samantha is on the surface, my butch me is on the surface too.
Yeah.
It's some sort of
Well, it's who you
balance,
are.
but it's
Yeah.
also survival because I love driving my bicycle in drag. I love walking the streets on the west side at night. And, I'm not thinking what I look like. I'm just walking.
You're
I'm
just
just
being
being
you.
myself,
I love that.
right? And mind you, my attitude doesn't go with the attitude of society, and so danger happens at all. It's risky
It is,
to do
it
that,
is.
those things, because otherwise I start looking like a clown, right? Uh, trying to feel comfortable with myself because I'm not supposed to. But
I think that's a message we really want to shift, is that the way society has decided who we should be or shouldn't be, I think we need to erase all of that and train society to come to understand that each one of us is unique. Each one of us is created unique and special, right? We're created by God. God didn't create junk.
yeah,
So the way we're created is right.
exactly. And I also have a gay brother, Mariana or Mario.
Yeah.
Mariana, my sister, my brother,
Yeah.
who is in the spirit world, and he worked a lot in the gay community when he was around. And I learned a lot from him, and together we founded the Latino gay group Hola. And it was
Nice.
based after meeting the two spirit people of the First Nations. So when I met that group, I said, we need our own version of doing things too.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so we became the flamboyant group full of feathers. And that's when Samantha came out because I was the leader. And I said, okay, so I know what it means to be an immigrant. I know what it means to be gay. But I don't know what it means to be one of these girls. And so I said, I'm going to put, a pair of high heels so that I'm not talking on behalf of someone else, but that I experience what it's
On your
like to
own.
be literally on their shoes. And in one of those marches and protests that we had, that we marched from Church and Wellesley to 52 Division, I experienced that. That was long enough.
In heels.
In here.
Well, let's hear from Jameson. Fleur Fantasy, tell me about your journey, finding your drag persona, and just how that has evolved, or how you feel about the journey that you're on and the work you're doing.
Okay, well, I was first introduced to drag on television.
Me too.
The very first season of RuPaul's Drag Race. I vividly remember watching it with my mother and my siblings, and we were like, oh, okay, this one, okay, this one's gonna get eliminated. Okay, I like that one. Okay, she has a good walk. But why did she wear this on her head? So, and we kind of made it something very religious, where every Friday evening we would tune in the television and we would watch. And for me, I had never seen drag before. I remember I was in the US and I saw a drag queen for the very first time, and I got scared because I saw this tall, towering person. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then home, I'm seeing it on television. I was like, okay, it looks nice. Then because we were constantly watching it, I got to understand, okay, you need to get into hair and makeup, you need to go through different challenges,
Yeah.
and the likeness just grew on me, and then I started having favorites, and I started having, okay, can I try to see if I could mimic some of what's, so, try to do a little lip sync, At first I lost my breath because I was like, how do they do that? Like, how do they do that? And that love for it grew within me. Thankfully, I got the opportunity to perform twice, but it was in a closed environment. It was not out for the public. And it was a very exhilarating experience because the audience responded very, very nicely to me. And I got to recognize that, hey, I am more than just a performer, but I can have a tremendous impact on persons. I can make them feel special. I can make them feel loved. I can make them feel entertained. And for me, that grew the love for wanting to be Flu Fantasy. And coming into Canada, it was the right time, I believe, where I could now continue to develop on Flow and hopefully take a main stage. And hopefully in the next 5 years, you'll see me on Canada's Drag Race,
Oh, I
making
hope
my grand
so.
debut.
Yay, Canada's Drag Race. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Yes. So for me, this journey has been one that has been rewarding, I should say. And it's all about connecting with the right persons and ensuring that whatever you get into, you do so because one, you love doing it. Two, you have a passion for doing it. And three, you have a purpose for doing what you do. And as I'm just mentioned this, I have started putting myself in circles where I can now be networked and where persons could see me. Thankfully, I'm performing at Pride Toronto. That's next week, Saturday.
Yay! Oh, that's awesome.
I will be doing two pieces, one as Flo and the other one as original. So original is my spoken word poetry artist's name. Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so you just got to know something else about me.
Yes, tell me about the poet.
So my poetry, it stemmed from the absence of my dad. He died when I was 6 years of age. I never got to see him or meet him. He died of HIV, and that was a very sore point for me.
Yeah.
And I explored poetry, trying to live my life through the lenses of my father, based on experiences that other persons had with him. So I spoke to persons about the interaction with my father, and based on how they felt and what they said, I wrote poetry based on that because I felt like I needed to heal because I had severe trauma that I had not dealt with and I did not know how to come to terms with, primarily because of a father's absence or a male figure. And that's how my poetry got blossomed. And I do have a book that I'm in the process of publishing,
Oh, good.
and I'm looking forward to this. But poetry for me has been an outlet where it comes from the heart
Yes.
and it goes out to touch lives.
I
And
love that.
that for me is most important. It's not about, oh, he's such a good poet, oh, he's good, oh, I love him. No, it's not about the praise for me. It's about healing. It's about, like you mentioned, the oneness. And most
Oneness.
importantly, it's about love.
It is about love, absolutely. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I think we're going to have to do this again, but do it much longer. We basically do our services
3 more weeks.
for an hour, and really, we could have gone on quite a bit longer with this. Fleur Fantasy, I really would like to have you back
Most definitely, you
as a
will.
poet and as a performer.
Oh my
And,
goodness, she asked for two. So she asked for Flo and she asked for original.
You know, there's competition happening here. Is there competition in oneness?
Healthy
Health-
competition.
Healthy competition, healthy
yes.
competition.
Healthy competition.
Well, let's hear it for our wonderful guest today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is my hope that we learn something, because sometimes we can judge a thing because we don't understand it, or because we think the normal way of doing things is this. Well, I'm here to tell you normal does not exist. It is not a thing. What I wanted to share today is that our participation is needed in life. Our participation is needed in life. And that means we have to stop wearing the masks. We have to stop pretending. We have to stop living from somebody else's should and begin to live instead from our own true, authentic voice and power and persona. So I really thank all three of you for sharing your talent, your gifts, your wisdom, your beauty. And Fleur, nice outfit. Man, you got to dress me. I'll have to, we're going to have to go shopping. Anyway, I'm just so grateful for everyone who participated today and for everybody who's online, everybody who's here in person. And we're going to have more performance type things here in our services because we really want to accentuate the fact that it is a community that builds a spiritual community. And this is a spiritual community.